You are listening to Salty Believer Unscripted.
This is Salty Believer Unscripted. I'm Brian Catherman.
I'm Josiah Walker.
And I'm doing the intro. How about that?
It's a little different being in this other chair.
It's, I almost forgot how to do it. Hey, here's why we're swapping seats. I want to talk with Josiah about, 6 months? We're a little into 7 months?
Yeah.
8 months, almost 8 months.
I had COVID the first month,
yeah,
so
it didn't
6
count.
months.
6 months of full-time ministry. You'd been in bivocational ministry for a long time before that.
Correct.
So I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about some of the differences between bivocational ministry. You're not managing a grocery store. You're working full-time and a lot of hours for the church. I think that would be an interesting discussion to say, okay, now that you have some foundation under you, what are some things maybe you weren't expecting, you were expecting? What are the differences? Let's go into some of that.
Okay.
Yeah? First of all, let's just start like this. How's the first few months been? How's it been this first half a year?
It's been good. Learning stuff, just trying to keep up, but I don't know. Sometimes I think it maybe doesn't go the way you expected, or sometimes there's things that you didn't think would happen, but it's funny coming over into ministry because right after I did, inflation went through the roof and life changed. So
yeah, you picked a good time, right? Hey, what do you miss about going to the grocery store? Besides being able to get your groceries every day and not have to put together a list.
That was a learning curve for me. It's definitely a fast-paced environment, and it's great to just, there's always something to do, hard work every day. I found that when I switched to ministry, I started getting fat. Like, I wasn't as physical, like throwing freight and stocking shelves. But just the difference of kind of getting to make my own routine and decide how my week looks. I know most people think pastors only work 1 hour a week, but I found that there is more work. But my old job was very structured around when trucks came, when orders were due, when people were shopping.
Did you ever take the grocery store home?
Yeah. As a manager, I did. Obviously, an everyday checker might not. But as a manager, I would think about things. I'd get phone calls. I got some phone calls after I quit. But
you're still getting phone calls. Is it harder now? Because you can work at home. You do. You have a study at home and an office at the building.
Yeah.
So you're working both places. Is it harder to leave work at work?
I think it depends on who you are and how you're wired. Like, I'm very much a workaholic, especially if it's something I'm passionate about. So I think when you talk about, was there something you were not really prepared for? Like, I almost feel like I'm putting in more hours now. Like, I thought, when I get into ministry, I'll have some more free time. And now I'm like, well, I'm working all the time.
Right.
I kind of do something every day. Like, it was easy to get in the pitfall of, like, well, this guy can only meet on this day. And so it felt like for the first season, there was something every day. Because maybe someone wanted to get coffee on my day off, so then I do something else. And
you used to be able to block out, I work these days at the grocery store, and I work these days in ministry. Now it's, I don't have the blocks.
So if I kept a time card, like, who knows? There are weeks where I'm like, was this a 20-hour week? And weeks where I'm like, I think this was an 80-hour week.
It's a little bit different. What do you like the most about going from that grocery store management, that kind of stuff, to the ministry work?
I think what I love about both jobs is just people. I love people. And it's amazing on this job in ministry, that you really, the kingdom impact that you're having on the lives of people. People's lives aren't necessarily transformed by your in-stock condition on butter, but but here in church, you're seeing lives change through the power of the gospel, and that's pretty rewarding.
That's been good. Do you have any regrets?
No. Maybe I didn't do it sooner, but
what if it wasn't inflation?
It was a little more difficult to take a pay cut when you factor in inflation. But I think when you trust God, He takes care of the rest. You know what I mean? And so, no, I think the regrets I have is being more hesitant at the beginning. It's when you know that God's calling you to do something, but you're unsure about making that leap. I think if I had just walked in more confidence of like, no, I'm going to trust God in this.
What changed going from being bivocational to full-time? This is it. What changed that you wish wouldn't have changed? Or what's been different that maybe surprised you? Or
I think what surprised me was how much work needs to be done. When we had a conversation when you hired me of like, well, if you hire me full-time, then I'm a financial burden on the church. And you said, yeah, but if you don't work here full-time, then you can't do as much for the church. And it's hard because you hear a lot and you read a lot. I've read a lot about bivocational. I felt like bivocational was the future of ministry. But now that I'm in full-time ministry, I see how much you're limited being a bivocational guy.
There's a huge need. You did bivocational, and you helped us a lot for a long time.
Sometimes that's your only option.
But then you get to a point.
But yeah, especially if it was a church of only one pastor. I love that we have team ministry here, so we're all able to take different parts. But and some towns, maybe that works out better, because it depends on the job you have, I think, is the big part.
Probably depends on the church, too. The job that you're in, the church that, I mean, if you're in a place where there's a lot of very mature believers that are not, I mean, old, but just mature in their walk with Jesus, and they're helping and they're serving, and that would be one thing. If you have something different, that would be hard.
We're having to spend a lot of time kind of developing and growing and maturing these people.
So, what do you find drives you crazy? The parking lot drive you crazy? I've been watching you get pretty bonkers about all the stuff in the parking lot.
It is a switch to treat things with love and care. One day somebody stacked a bunch of pallets in our parking lot here. I was like, I don't know what to do with these now. I don't have a truck coming to get these up.
I think for context, not one of the members of our church.
No.
We have people that just feel that they can drop stuff at our dumpster or park, do other things in the parking lot.
Illegal things.
Yeah, so that's been... what do you do with the... And then you go out and you can't just explode on somebody.
Right.
I mean, like that even happened today, the day of the recording. You want to tell about that?
Sure. I just got here early, and because I had forgotten to put the trash out, and there was a car parked here, obviously from overnight, and when you work in a commercial setting, you just want to post a notice that says, no parking, or maybe even tow the car away.
Your car's getting towed. Call the police. What would you have done if there was a car in your loading bay?
Right.
At the grocery store?
Yeah, I'd probably get towed. Yeah.
You tow them.
I mean, I had a grocery store that was next to a thrift store once, and I opened my door, and all of a sudden somebody's couch, stove, swing set was in my loading dock, and I had to drag it to the thrift store. So,
okay, but this situation, you're in ministry.
Is a little different, yeah. So, what do? Well, you use it as an opportunity to share the gospel. They didn't come here to buy groceries, so the Lord led them here for one reason or another. If their car broke down here, let's use that as a tool to share the gospel.
And you put...
So I put a Bible on their windshield and wrote them a little letter saying, hey, if your car broke down or if you ran out of gas, whatever the case, I want you to know I'm praying for you. If you need help, please let us know. And I left our contact info. And then they came to get it, and turned out it had broken down. And
it was like a crap on a sweet high school girl or something.
Yeah. I think the hard thing is people will go, oh, it's a church parking lot, this will be safe. But, sometimes that's not the case.
So now, at the grocery store, you had people shoplifting, and you're trying to protect a product, and now you're trying to be concerned about the shoplifter's soul, right?
It's a little different.
Well, that's good. How's it been for your family?
I think it's been good. It's been nice to have a little more flexibility, and just be there and be able to come and go, and take my daughter to school. And it was weird. Some holidays started rolling in, and I wasn't prepared that it was Memorial Day or July 4th, because
you didn't have to work on Thanksgiving.
I wasn't working.
We haven't got there. What are you going to do for Thanksgiving and Christmas?
I guess
we have Christmas this Sunday.
That's true. It is on a Sunday, so I guess I'm working.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah. I've gotten to a lot of leftover Thanksgivings because I had to work that day. So
that'll be fun.
That'll be a nice change.
What advice would you give to a Bivo guy still in it, now that you can kind of see it from both perspectives? Because I think there was a season, like you said, you were really trying to figure out, do I make the jump, not make the jump?
It's hard.
Do you miss things? What would you tell yourself, or what would you tell another bivocational person in the situation you were in a couple years ago?
It's hard when you're passionate about both things. And I think when I was bivocational, I didn't see a time when it would ever not be that case. So I think if I had known that would have come to a close at one point, I would have savored those moments more. I have to think coming out of it that there were probably times where Paul was like, man, I kind of miss the high, fast pace of tent making.
Right.
So, but, the blessing for me was I had already been here. I think it's hard for a lot of people if they go to a new church, maybe don't know the situation. I knew the people here. I knew the volunteers. I kind of knew what I was getting myself into.
You already had an office.
Yeah. So I'm just here more now. So that was helpful. But
and in that context, do you think? In fact, let's just get really raw for a minute. Do you think the situation with supply chain issues and inflation and difficulties with employees, did God kind of leverage that to make it easier for you to come here? Are you looking at that going, man, I'm glad I'm not at the grocery store right now?
For sure. It was My last position, I had opened a store right before COVID hit, and it was going to be amazing. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and it got a lot harder. You know, it was hard to get staffing. There were different mandates and things that made things difficult, and supply chain issues. It was like God was opening the door.
That was like a month or two in, right?
Right. So
when did the store open before COVID?
February.
And then
the
COVID
toilet paper thing was in like March or April, when the big crisis there when you couldn't get bath tissue.
And then that was it.
But,
so you had a couple months.
And then more's
of
happened
COVID.
since I've left, you know. So, but no matter where you're working, there's always going to be tough stuff. There's been tough stuff in the ministry that I'm like, oh, there are some days where I'm like, what am I doing?
Well, I was going to ask you that. Do you feel like one is harder than the other, or are they just different? I mean, like,
I think it's a different hard. You know, it's like when I was working in the grocery business outside of being in a management position. It was hard physically. Then you become a store director, and all of a sudden it's more hard mentally. I think this is the same way. It's an emotional hardship. You know, if somebody doesn't like my store and they decide they want to go shop at the competition, I don't normally take that personally. But if somebody leaves the church because of my leadership or something I said or, you know, something I did, that's hard. You know, and it's hard when you're trying to really motivate people to follow Christ and serve Him, and you're just seeing where they have other priorities, and you just want to help them.
Yeah.
But
so it's relationally hard.
Yeah, it's a different kind of hard, but it's good.
Are you having fun?
I'm having a blast. I love it. It's the kind of thing where I never thought it would be possible in an unreached people area like Utah is. But I praise God that I have this opportunity. And
okay, so some people are asking, I just want to pull the curtain back on a lot of this. And some of our listeners are like, what are we even talking about? But it's what today we're talking about.
Ministry. It's a ministry podcast.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. How we had a plan. We set out a plan for you to make the jump from bivocational to this full-time position.
Yeah.
And that required fundraising.
Sure.
And how do you feel about that? And how'd that go? I mean...
That says it
Were
all.
you excited about it?
It's difficult. I've never been good at asking for money. Like, I don't even think I could sell Girl Scout cookies, and everybody wants those.
Here's the thing. You don't sell Girl Scout cookies.
They sell themselves?
You just supply them.
Right. So, it's hard to ask people for money, you know, especially when I'm fully capable of having a job. You know, you really have to sell people on the vision of why this is important and how it matters. But you say all the time, if it's God's will, it's God's will. And I've seen that unfold. You know, I've seen God provide funding for this, and even taking a pay cut and having inflation go up, there's always been food on my table. You know what I mean? And so
it might be beans and rice and not hamburgers.
Has it stretched my faith? Absolutely. But I'm a better person because of it. And
well, I think the church has certainly grown.
Yeah.
The children, just in the few months you've been here, we've started another class. We moved the nursery because it was up in an unsafe area in the front of the building.
I think I started our youth group here right before I quit, and that's grown.
We started the youth group. You started bivocationally, but now it's going and growing. And there's so you being here more and being able to dedicate the time to it has really done a lot for family ministry. Yeah. And then you've been helping in the executive side in so many ways. And so it's been really good to the point where, you know, it's hard not to see what God was doing. And it's only been... I mean, your first month didn't count, so 7 months. 6 months.
No, I mean, we had a huge kind of parent conference and family, you know, conference that I think I couldn't have pulled off if I had still been.
No. You did so much work on that leading up to it. That was great. Fueled up families.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was really awesome. We'll have mission teams come and help us this year, and you have to coordinate a ton of things.
Absolutely.
Is bivocational ministry the future?
Depending on the context, absolutely. I think that's still the future. It could be the future for me again one day. You know, don't write it off. I think God oftentimes will equip us and prepare us to do multiple things for His glory and our good. And you never know when you're going to have to pick up that apron again and start sacking groceries.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well, what else would you add? I mean, just reflecting on the last 8 months of how we've been doing. And maybe the person thinking about going to bivocational ministry, or the person thinking about coming out of bivocational ministry, or the person thinking about planting a church and having to go to bivocational ministry. What else would you add? What do we need? What doesn't get talked about in all the books and all the conversations? I know what does. Go ahead. You say something, then I have something.
I like to operate in a rigid state of flexibility. You can spend time thinking and stressing over how all the pieces are going to fall together, and then all of a sudden, it'll feel like God will just open the door immediately, and boom, all the pieces fall into place, and you're wondering how that ever happened and why you spent 3 months worrying about it.
Yeah, then something just boom, happens.
Just in 10 minutes, it unfolds. So
let's talk about the preaching, because we've talked about that. When you were bivocational, how much time could you really give to preaching a sermon on a Sunday?
It would take me like a month of prep time because I'd have to work on it so little every week.
Just a little bit. It's like, how many? I mean, would you put 12 hours in over the course of multiple weeks?
Yeah.
And so now being full time, you can see how complicated it would be. What if you had to do that every week?
It would be hard. Like it'd be hard to write a sermon every week, to do counseling, to clean the building, to do a Bible study. I don't know how some of these guys did it in the past, where there's a Sunday morning, a Sunday night, a Wednesday night,
If they were bivocational, I have no idea. I mean, but you got Farmer Joe who does the farm, does this, serves the church. It's a miracle that even happens, but now that you can see it from this perspective, you can see the value of being able to close your door, work on things, press in.
It's been great. I think my favorite part has been getting to have lunch with the high school and junior high kids in my youth group. Opportunities.
That's because you like milkshakes.
Well, mostly. But I mean, I've had opportunities to connect with people and just be present, go to football games and stuff that I wouldn't have.
Yeah, you went to a football game on Friday.
Yeah.
Did he win?
Oh, they crushed it. Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm going to be able to tell people one day I knew all these kids before they were pro athletes.
There you go. There you go. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's really good. Well, I hope that we're able to keep you here in full-time ministry forever. If not here in full-time ministry, then somewhere in full-time ministry, because you're putting so many every minute, good hours. It's nice I miss going and visiting you at the grocery store, because then I pick up a few groceries here and there. Or you'd hold stuff off to the side for me. Oh, they're about to run out of this. Thank you. But it's really nice to see you able to really serve the kingdom in this way.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're a Christian, we're all in full-time ministry. But it's a blessing to get paid for this. So
yeah, no, that's really great.
And bless others.
Hey, hope this was helpful. If you're just listening and you're bivocational right now and you're thinking what could change, maybe you're thinking about serving in a mission field, coming to Utah, come work with us and help us reach part of Salt Lake City or Bountiful or Layton or Kaysville or whatever we're doing. I don't know. If you're just hearing this and you're just thinking, man, how do I do that? We'd love to hear from you. You can find us at SaltyBeliever.com. There's a communication forum. Find us on social media or whatever. We'd just love to hear your situation. Or if you were working bivocationally and you found some really good systems that work, we'd love to maybe have you on the podcast, because it's a really good conversation to go, how do we do this in this state of some people being able to minister full-time and some people needing to have income coming from some other sources.
Yeah.
So, thanks for listening. Till next time.
Thank you for listening. Find more information at SaltyBeliever.com.